Youngpreneurs Podcast, episode number 118 with your host, Victor Ahipenny. What's up, world? Another day, another podcast, and today I'm talking with Matt Aitchison, and I have definitely said that wrong as I am just doing some of the intros for the shows at the moment, and I had an amazing talk with him. If you haven't checked out some of our previous property episodes, you definitely want to check out them. They are in around about episode, I think, 26, 7, 8, 9, and 30. In and around there, we've got ones with Kyron Goss, who's doing cool things around the world, and we did run recently, somewhere in the 90s, we did another one with Nathan Birch, who's got over 200 different properties throughout Australia, and we did one with Jared Lichton, who is doing flips and renos in the States as well, and yeah, there's and Leon Weber, who's also done basically the 4-hour work week model and now has started funneling that into property. So make sure you go and check out those if you love this. I will definitely find it difficult for you not to like this. It's an awesome episode of ups, downs, and massively not letting your past dictate your future. It's so huge. One of the things that really stuck out to me, which you'll see why, I don't want to spoil it, is when Matt said that his audio was not matching his video. So what he was saying to himself was not reflective to what was actually happening in his life, and you'll see why. It was pretty dire straits as to how that all happened. He's gone through some bumps and turns like all of the rest of us, and he has come out the other side and is doing amazing things. He's got multiple businesses, and he is definitely living life on his own terms like we all want to. So I've got a few things for you. If you want to learn how to launch an online product in 7 days, I've got some free training for you over at passiveincomeyoung.com. If you just want to jump in and mastermind with other guests who have been on the show, as well as over 400 other young entrepreneurs, then make sure you jump over to Facebook, check out Young Entrepreneurs Mastermind. It's a free group. It's awesome. We've got amazing content, and it is growing massively daily. You want to be there if you want to be taking your life to the next level. As I say, they're all free. Make sure you check out all the show notes, everything we talk about at passiveincomeyoung.com, and while you're there, check out Matt's podcast, which is linked in the show notes. So in the meantime, guys, keep living life on your own terms, and we will see you all on the other side. You're listening to the Youngpreneurs Podcast, the #1 resource online for under 35-year-olds, where we chat twice a week to the most inspiring entrepreneurs in the world. We have it all. If you're looking for inspiration, guidance, or actionable tips to help you transition from that job into a business, or if you're ready to take that business to a whole new level, then this is the place to be. Get ready to live life on your own terms. Youngpreneurs, what's up? We're after another episode today, and we're going to be working in the space of the property field, the mindset, a bit of everything today. And I'm got Matt Aitchison on the line, and I loved it when he sent me his bio. I'm not going to spoil too much about his story, but it's something that we often talk about on the show, and it's that your past does not dictate your future. And hopefully that resonates with some of you out there, because it is something that definitely resonates with me. If you've listened to some of the past episodes, you would have known my background growing up. It definitely wasn't in the entrepreneurial space, and I wasn't guided in that light. And hopefully some of you will take some awesome gems out of this episode. So I'd just like to welcome Matt to the show. What's happening, man?
Hey, what's up, Victor? It's an honor to be welcomed into your amazing community, and I love what you're doing and the information you're sharing, so it's an honor. Thanks for having me on.
It's absolutely my pleasure. Look, I love to get a bit of an idea of what growing up looked like to you when you were obviously growing up, to give us a bit of an idea of where you were to where you are now.
Yeah, so to kind of run back to my childhood and really dissect a little bit of where I started to where I'm at today. I grew up in a lower middle class family. My parents divorced when I was young, but I grew up in a very supportive environment where my parents did always tell me that I could accomplish and do whatever I wanted, and I believe that. Both my parents grew up poor. They also have been in corporate America their entire lives, so they did kind of encourage me on this entrepreneurial journey, but I really started in sports, and that's where I started kind of understanding the benefits of teamwork and hard work and competition and collaboration, but I never had really applied it in the business space. So I grew up in sports, and I started hanging around a group of people. My peer group wasn't necessarily bad, but it also wasn't necessarily matching the direction that I wanted to go in my life. And so I started making some poor choices. I was, drinking and doing drugs and, a lot of stuff that teenagers can somewhat get caught up in. But I was also in my academics a 4.0 student and very involved in extracurricular activities and sports. And my first week of my senior year of high school, I actually got into a fight. And I was a young teenager with a big ego trying to prove myself, and I got into a fight, and that fight actually got me expelled from high school. And all of my educational scholarships were taken off of the table, and I basically looked at what my future was at the moment seeming to crumble before my eyes, and realizing that I needed to make some changes in my life that would allow me to get back on the right path. So I went through an entire kind of checklist that required me to get that blemish removed from my record, and UC Santa Barbara was the one school that didn't get wind of my expulsion, and I was so happy about that. And it was the one 4-year college that I pulled the wool over their eyes, and I wasn't gonna, take that opportunity for granted. And I also, though, at the same time was still drinking and partying with friends, and, smoking and doing different things that just weren't really productive, right? And I'm sure we can all relate to having maybe something, not those things, but maybe something in our life that we know just isn't serving us, and yet we don't choose to do anything about it. And my first year at UC Santa Barbara, I got in trouble for fighting and doing the exact same thing that got me arrested and expelled from high school. So I was in my first year of college, and I was basically, facing this catastrophic life-changing event where, as you're an adult, I was facing actual jail time and prison time. And thank God I was able to work my way through that process and situation where I didn't have to serve a long time in jail. But I remember this moment being the absolute game changing experience that changed the entire path of my life. And I woke up out of a drunken stupor in a jail cell, and I looked around at all the people that were around me. I looked at my environment. I looked at the conversations. I looked at the opportunities that were in there. And I realized that this was not the life that I had envisioned for myself. And my audio, all the things that I was saying I wanted in my life, was not matching my video, the actual picture playing out in front of me, right? And so I remember this life-changing moment for me was I got on the phone call, and you get that one, phone call of someone who's going to bail you out, right? And that call was to my dad, who was someone that I've always looked up to. And my dad said, "You're not a bad person, but I can tell you that the choices you're making have led you to this exact moment. And the beauty is you have the choice to respond how you're going to respond to this, and how you respond is going to tell me a lot about not only your character and what you're made of, but the direction that you're going to choose to go in your life." And he used a very powerful analogy and metaphor that I will never forget, and from that day forward, it truly did change the passion and purpose in the course of my life. And he said, "Your past doesn't have to equal your future. If all you did was focus on the rear view mirror of the car, you would lose sight of the windshield and the vision in front of you, and you would crash. But the rear view mirror does serve a purpose. It's there to remind you of all the things behind you that have gotten you to this point and that have really helped guide you on this path. But at the same time, you can't focus on that rear view mirror. And history is history. It's behind you. You got to focus on that windshield and the bright, beautiful vision that you have in front of you, but you also have to have an idea of where you're going and why you're going there." And so that conversation in that moment in my life was a very emotional intense conversation, but looking back on it, it set me down a new trajectory and has led me into creating, the businesses and the entrepreneurial path that I've gone down now was because of that choice I made to change my life and walk in a new direction.
It's so awesome. Not the whole being in jail and everything, but quite often, and we hear the saying a lot, and we talk about it on the show. But is you're the sum of the five people that you spend your most time around, and often in these sorts of interviews, it's oh yeah, I'm hanging out with I don't know, Tony Robbins or this person and that person. But you said I was sitting there in a jail. I was looking around at the other people in there, and it's like right then and that point, you were the sum of the five people that you were hanging
Yeah.
around. Like you were making poor decisions. They were taking you on that track. So I think it's really cool to be able to look at it from that side of things, as it's you are the dictator. Your choices dictate who you are. I was on Ty Lopez's Facebook page yesterday, and he had a thing, and this is kind of a massive tangent, but he said if you've got more than 100,000 social media followers on any platform, private message me. I'm having a party.
Right. I saw that
of
as well.
of massive influencers, and one lady wrote, and she's like, I'm a first generation, immigrant or migrant or whatever, and I'm working hard and I've got a side hustle, but I haven't got 100K. This is unfair. Rah rah rah. How can I do this? And I just wrote underneath, step one, stop complaining.
Yeah.
And it was just like, Ty, people who don't know Ty Lopez, he's the guy that you probably hate because he comes up on your YouTube whenever you're watching it,
I
with
love
his
him.
Lamborghini. Oh, so do I. He's the guy with his Lamborghinis and his books and stuff like that. But on the same note, he started exactly where the majority of people started. There's nothing on a silver platter for him. But coming back from that, I think it's amazing that your past definitely does not dictate your future. And on that point, what were the next steps to kind of start crafting that, to start turning the video to the audio to get them kind of a bit better aligned?
Yeah, well, you brought up a good point of the sum of the five, and that's truly a model that I believe in and a practice that I preach. And my belief is birds of a feather flock together. So if you are hanging around four other people that are smoking pot and are just laying around every day and not doing much with their life, you're probably going to be the fifth person that does the exact same thing. If you're hanging around nine other millionaires who are making an impact in their industry and their business and their employees' lives, you're probably going to become the 10th. So proximity is power. And so for me, I realized that my tribe, my peer group that I was hanging around with, necessarily, as much as I love them, and I still love them to this day, it doesn't mean that I don't have love and respect and appreciation for them, because a lot of people struggle with the fact of when you go in a different direction in your life, you feel like you're neglecting or turning your back on those people. And there's by no means a requirement that you have to do that. But what you do need to do is get more intentional about when you spend time with them and the people that you are now making room for when you free up that time in your peer group to learn from and be mentored from and to gain more experience in the areas of life that you look and choose to elevate up in. So for me, it was I had to edit my peer group immediately. I realized that the activities and the people that I was hanging around and doing were not mirroring the life that I supposedly had told myself and other people around me that I was going to, create for myself. So the peer group was a big part. I really got intentional about reworking what my schedule looked like, who I was spending my time with. I got big into fitness and health, and that's always been a big part of what I do. But I got big into refocusing of fitness, health, mental, and physical. So I got big into personal development, and I also realized that my life, my businesses, the opportunities that would come into my world were only going to be big enough based on the person I grew into and attracted that. So it really became a personal development game, and we all know that personal development at the end of the day is a mountain that has no peak, right? You don't reach a destination. It's an ongoing, ever achieving process. And so when I kind of got a better idea of, okay, this is the path that I'm on, I know what I need to do now, the purpose was there and that gave me a direction. Now I needed to figure out the strategy, because the strategy is what really gives you the directions on the direction that you're heading in. So those were some of the things that I started to pay more attention to, and being a little bit more intentional and mindful about how I was going to go and achieve those things and design those things in my life.
And so let's have a chat about business. What is it that, for everyone who's sitting out there going, Jesus, what does he do? What fills your days at the moment? And I guess, how did you get to that point?
Sure, yeah. So I'm 28 and I graduated college at 22. And basically from the day I grabbed that worthless piece of paper, no, I'm just kidding. It was an expensive piece of paper, but it taught me a lot along the way. Along the way was I started in the world of real estate, and as an entrepreneur, both my parents being in corporate America, I saw how they were treated. I saw the ceiling of achievement that they had, and I also saw the talent that was being stifled within them, and I did not want to head down that path. So I was looking for a vehicle, an industry, or a space that could check a few boxes for me. And the boxes that were all checked was in the space of real estate, and that was to have no ceiling of achievement, to be able to create a business where I could be my own boss, to create a business that empowered other people to have opportunities within my organization, and to create a business that provided a service to other people that was a major benefit and value to them if it was provided in a vehicle and a service that was done at a very high level. So real estate was the traditional model that I started with, and then I started investing in real estate at the same time, flipping 20, 30, 40 houses a year. And then I started buying rental properties to get my passive income up and have other people pay down my investments while collecting an income and other benefits. And then I started seeing that, okay, based on this little ecosystem of real estate in the traditional capacity and then real estate in the investment capacity, I was also referring a ton of business out to a contractor. And so I decided to create a construction company. So all of these companies start working within the same sphere and ecosystem as one another, and I can generate revenue opportunities and income streams off of all of those cross-pollinating each other. And so that model and that vision has continued to expand and grow. But my day-to-day now, after building up some of those companies and leveraging myself out, my passion and my focus is I consult and spend most of my time in my investment flipping and buy and hold rental company. And then I consult and coach and train other investors who want to scale their investment company or want to get into real estate investing. And I'm passionate about that, and that's where I spend majority of my time now.
That's awesome. So when you're flipping, are you buy, reno, sell, or buy, subdivide, or develop, sell? What did you start with, and what are you doing now?
So I started with basic buy, fix it up, and flip it. I've done, under the umbrella of real estate investing, just about everything. I've done wholesaling. I've done ground up brand new houses. I've done subdividing of lots and creating, maps and plans for other developers to pick up and do basically where we left off. So I've done a lot of different things. I do buy and hold strategies where we improve underperforming assets, but a big leg of my business is we flip, 30 to 40 houses a year, and we buy rental properties and manage those rental acquisitions.
Okay, so you've got a development company, a rental management company, and like a buyer's agency kind of company, or are you buying outright all the flips yourself?
Yeah, so we buy and represent for my company. So we don't represent other investors. We only buy in our market, and buy for ourselves in our personal fund. But then we also have a traditional real estate company that if anybody wanted to buy a rental property, or if anybody wanted to sell their house, or they wanted to buy their first house, we have a traditional real estate company. I'm not sure what you guys
Yeah,
call
yeah.
it in Australia, but we have one of those companies with agents that work for us and service those consumers that require that service. But I spend most of my day to day in the investment company and looking for opportunities to create profits through buying properties at a discount, adding value to them through construction, and then selling them on the market for a higher profit margin.
And it's such a, yeah, property investing is simple. Like, yeah,
It really is.
You don't have to be good at, like, this is where I started my whole entrepreneurial education. I had a mentor. He's over actually in the States at the moment. He's got $100 million fund that he raised just from his mailing list, that he's taken over to the States. But he went 0 to 130 properties in 3.5 years, and you know, and went over to the States and bought another couple of hundred more when the market turned to crap. And you don't have to be good at maths. Like, there's about 4 equations that you need to know, like, gross profit, net profit, your reno numbers that you're going to factor in. Like, they're all pretty stock standard, but people get so scared when it comes to property.
They do, man. It's kind of like that great white buffalo or that unicorn. It's like you see it and you're like, ooh, what's that? That's really mystical, and I would love to go over and pet it and see what that's all about. But no, I don't know. That's a little scary. And really, it's simple. It's not easy. And what I mean by that is, like what you just said, I have all of my numbers. I wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed when it came to, calculus or algebra, but my Excel spreadsheet makes me a genius. And so I use calculators, I use tools, and I use resources that empower me to do what I need to do at a high level, my company to do at a high level. And when you figure out those systems, it's very simple. Now, going out and executing on the systems is usually where people overcomplicate and convolute the approach to real estate investing. And so a lot of the times it's people getting in their own way, and instead you got to follow the systems. And that's really with any aspect of life, right? There's an approach to everything, and there's a poor approach, and there's a best practice approach. And a lot of the times it's us getting in our own way before we even allow ourselves the opportunity to win or succeed in that.
Talk us through. I just want to kind of dispel a myth. So let's take you back to the first property you bought. If you had that you were going to do a flip on, let's say you were doing a renovation. If there's somebody out there listening, would you suggest to them to do the renovations themselves, to be out there painting it themselves, to be out there doing the wallpaper and trying to learn how to become a carpenter and a plumber and a painter and a candlestick maker? What are your thoughts on that?
Good question. And this is my advice. There's a couple different approaches to this. If you have a construction background, then that's a value that you can bring to the table to keep your costs down, and you will understand how to manage that project at a higher level. So do it, because that's part of your highest income producing activity, right? That's a strength that you bring to the table. But if you're not a contractor and you don't have experience in it, it may cost you a little bit more money to pay somebody else to do it, but you are going to, and ask me how I know based on experience, you're going to save more money by hiring a professional than by allowing an amateur to do it. And one of my favorite quotes is, you think a professional is expensive, try hiring an amateur. And that's usually where people make a lot of the mistakes, is they try and do it all themselves. There's nothing wrong. I'm a big believer in leverage and leveraging people that are smarter than me. One of my favorite books is from Robert Kiyosaki, Why A Students Work for C Students. And my goal is always to be surrounded by people that are smarter, faster, bigger, stronger than me, because if you're the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room, for one. But if you're trying to wear every hat in your business, you're never going to be able to succeed at a real high level, and that's usually when we end up getting in our own way. Is, oh well, I want to do this, but it's not necessarily always the best business decision from a rehabbing perspective to try and go be a contractor and throw on a contractor hat when that's just not in your DNA. It's not in your strengths. And I always say stay in your strength zone and allow the people around you who are better in other spaces to come in and uplift you.
Yeah, I had a friend who's a pretty savvy investor in Brisbane now, but he said he missed out when he first started because he had the paintbrush in his hand and was only focused every day when he drove to this place on painting. He didn't look at this for sale sign that was just around the corner, and it cost him $160,000 in what could have been. It was just basically a property that the owners obviously didn't realize that they could develop. And one of his friends drove to visit his reno, saw this place, stopped off, rung, bought it, and then carried on driving. And that was the whole thing. He said if he didn't have his head down doing things that weren't his best strength, that weren't the best use of his time, he could have been out there finding another deal. So
that's a great point.
Super important. Let's take a delve into where do you see yourself in 2 years? Like, what are you doing with your business? Is it expanding? Is it staying on doing what it's doing?
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in creating the life that you want and back-ending into those goals. And my life by design is creating as much passive income that I possibly can in order to fund my lifestyle, cover all of my expenses, and then some. So I call that being a 100%er. So for example, if your living expenses for everything that you do, month in and month out, is on average, say, $5,000 a month, I want 100% of my passive income coming in to be $5,000 a month. So if I decided to run off to Mexico tomorrow, that I know all of my expenses would be covered. Well, I want not to only be a 100%er, I want to be 1,000%er. So I want 10 times my living expenses to be covered and coming in within 2 to 3 years. So that's where I'm always looking for passive income opportunities to either joint venture with people on businesses, invest in other people's businesses, buy more, which is why I love real estate, buy more rental properties that can generate more passive income. So I do look to continue expanding my passive income portfolio, and I do look to expand my real estate investing business outside of California, which is where I'm located. So I see that path, and then I also am passionate about empowering other people on their march to $1 million net worth. So that's one of the things I do on my podcast, on the Millionaire Mindcast, is we talk about where mindset and money meet and about the different wealth building channels and vehicles people can utilize in order to be more purposeful about their wealth creation. Because I know a lot of people, and I get it, money isn't the most important thing, and I'm a big believer of that, but I am also a big believer in money empowers people to be bigger and better, and at the end of the day, it doesn't change people, it just magnifies more of who you really are. So if you're a greedy person, then money's just going to make you more greedy. If you're a generous person, money is going to make you more generous, and you're going to be able to impact more people. And so what I'm trying to do is inspire wealth with purpose and give people more of a framework and an intentionality about why they do what they do and how they go about doing it, and creating wealth along the way. And then what can you do with that wealth to give back and expand and create bigger platforms for other people to do that? So real estate has been my vehicle that has empowered me to create my wealth. And now I want to continue doing that, but in the process, I want to empower other people to do that themselves, because it's not some secret formula that can't be duplicated. Mm-hmm. And I hope others know that they all have the tools and resources within them and around them to accomplish anything that anybody else that they look up to is doing.
So on that point, what do you think your biggest strength is?
My biggest strength is I never give up. I've faced a lot of hardship and a lot of challenges, and every failure I've had is I have a loving relationship with failure. I do not have a love-hate relationship with it. I have a pure loving relationship with it, because every failure I have had in my life has been the best feedback for me and as long as I am being intentional about what lessons it's trying to teach me, it's only really elevated me to step up to that next level. So my superpower, I would say, is I am a very hard worker, but I'm also a very curious person. I'm constantly asking questions, and the quality of the answer is always determined by the quality of the question that you're asking. So I'm always interested in modeling after successful people and taking the beautiful things that they've designed in their life that may be able to be implemented or applied in maybe a business that I'm doing or in my personal life. So curiosity, hard work, and connection. I truly have a love for humans and the diversity and all of the beauty that we all have within us. And I'm always curious in how I can help people create more purpose and passion in the areas of their life they desire to move forward in.
Cool. Well, last few questions just to wrap up. What does a day look like for you?
For me, I do my Miracle Morning. A good buddy of mine, I'm not sure if you know of Hal Elrod.
Yeah, awesome book.
Yeah, Hal's a good buddy of mine. He's in one of our mastermind groups, the Go Abundance Mastermind Group, and he has really helped shape how I start my day off. So I do my Miracle Morning and my Savers early in the morning. I get up at 5 and I will get out of bed, immediately do some jumping jacks and some push-ups to get the blood flowing. I'll put on some tea. I'll do a 10-minute meditation. I will do a 10-minute Audible book that I'm reading, 10-minute, journal and scribing, and then I will go play with my daughter and have some fun. She's 19 months old, so she's kind of the big why of why I do what I do is to provide, a great life for her and be a good role model for her. So I like to kick my day off with her and my fiance, and then I'm into the office and I'm following my schedule. So my schedule is very time blocked and structured because at the end of the day, we all have, 24 hours in the day, and I want to make the most out of that. So I'm trying to be as productive as I can throughout the day, but also my health is a big thing. So I do yoga in the afternoons. I play in a basketball league. So I'm definitely big on working hard, and I put in a lot of time and energy in the beginning to do that, but now I'm trying to earn back a little bit more of my life balance and make sure that it's rolling instead of clunking along.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. You already gave the Kiyosaki book. Any other books or resources that you'd recommend to anyone listening?
Yeah, so I just read a book. I read a lot of books, and I used to hate reading, and it was kind of like pulling teeth, but I knew it was a benefit for me. And every once in a while, I'll come across a book that actually has me hanging on every word. I can't put it down, and I end up, really getting engaged with it. Well, this book by Jesse Itzler, Living with a Seal, was probably one of my favorite books that I've read in a really long time, and it had me busting up laughing at certain points out loud while I was listening to it. But it's a great mindset book, and it's a strategy all around pushing your mental and physical barriers basically to new levels and raising those ceilings. And what they've seen with Navy SEALs and the strategy that they've used, it's called the 40% rule. And basically, through all of the strenuous mental and physical tests that they've put these Navy SEALs through during their trainings, they get to a point where their brain tells them you are done. You are tapped out, right? I'm sure we can all relate to some experience where you're like, I just can't do anymore. I'm done. I'm throwing in the flag. And what they found is that they've actually pushed and stretched those people physically and mentally 60% further than that point that they originally tapped out. So it was a really good reminder that when I hit a wall and I think and I'm telling myself and my brain's telling me that I'm done, I'm really only at 40% capacity of what I can truly do, and how can I push and stretch myself a little bit further in order to get maybe a little bit better result this next time.
That's awesome. Well, we'll link all of that at the show notes at passiveincomeyoung.com. Finally, you're 140 because you're obviously pretty healthy and medical advancements and all the rest of it. You're on your deathbed. You're looking back. What does a successful life look like for you?
A successful life looks like for me of not dying. And then the way of not dying is honestly leaving a legacy behind. And that legacy is, basically a legacy is planting seeds that you'll never see. And I want to plant the seeds that teach my children and the people around me and, the people that I've been in contact with that, whatever deck of cards you think you were dealt, you can create what that new destiny looks like, and your past doesn't have to equal your future. And, for a lot of people, the hardest person to lead is yourself. So the legacy I'd love to leave behind would be to really give people the passion and purpose and the belief that they can go out and accomplish anything that they choose to accomplish.
Wicked. Well, I have no doubt you are well on the way to achieving that. I'd just like to welcome you to the Youngpreneurs family. And if people want to find out a bit more about you, if they want to follow your journey or just hear more of the passion that you exude, where can they go? What can they do?
So they can find me on Facebook, is where I do a lot of live Facebook videos on my real estate projects and personal development stuff. So that's Matty Aitchison, Matty, and my last name Aitchison for Facebook. Or you can find me at Millionaire Mindcast on Instagram, Matty A on Snapchat. I like to do a lot of interactive videos and connecting with people. So it is an honor, I must say, to be in the family, and it's been fun connecting with you.
It's wicked, man. Well, we will catch up, no doubt, in the future, and I appreciate your time, man. All the best.
Back at you, brother.
Thanks for listening to the Youngpreneurs podcast. This was proudly brought to you by the Podcast Institute, the #1 training resource to take your business from chasing leads to leads chasing you, and from an absolute amateur to a full-blown authority. If you're looking to take your business to the next level, then a podcast is the obvious answer. You can get national and global exposure in a very fast time, and it's just exactly what I've done with this podcast. So if you want to find out more, get a checklist on how you can get started for under $60, and to find out more through a small training video that I've prepared for you all, then please check out passiveincomeyoung.com/podcast training.